He came to bring peace. He died in a pool of blood, his home burned to ash, his family torn apart. What happened at the White River Indian Agency wasn't just a clash of cultures, it was a brutal reckoning. In the fall of 1879, Colorado's White River Valley, isolated, wild, and soaked in tension, became the stage for one of the bloodiest confrontations between Native Americans and the U.S. government. At the center was Nathan Meeker. A former journalist and devout Christian, Meeker was appointed the Indian agent at the White River Agency, tasked with civilizing the Ute people. But his vision was uncompromising. He believed native customs were barbaric and set out to reshape the Ute tribe into his version of society: Christian, sedentary, agricultural. But the Utes had been roaming these lands for centuries. They were expert horsemen and hunters, bound to the open range and mountain passes. Farming was not just impractical in their arid territory, it was an insult to their identity. Meeker disregarded their warnings. He fenced off grazing lands, plowed through horse pastures, and pushed his reforms with the righteousness of a missionary. When tribal leaders objected, he called in military support. That sealed his fate. On September 29, 1879, Ute warriors launched a calculated strike on the White River Agency. It began with a thunderous charge. Within hours, Nathan Meeker was dead, beaten, speared, and his body desecrated beyond recognition. 11 of his male staff were also killed, some while trying to flee, others inside their homes. Buildings were torched. Blood soaked the dirt. But the Utes made a deliberate choice. They did not kill the women and children. Arvilla Meeker, Nathan's wife, their adult daughter Josephine, and several other women and children were taken captive. For 23 days, they were held by the Utes, treated with a complicated mix of restraint and intimidation. Josephine, a cultured and educated woman, later described the ordeal with harrowing clarity: nights by campfires, moments of kindness, flashes of terror. She witnessed a world foreign to her own, and it forever altered her view of the so-called savagery she'd been raised to fear. While the massacre unfolded, a detachment of U.S. cavalry under Major Thomas Thornburg was already en route to the agency. But before they could arrive, they were ambushed at Milk Creek. The soldiers were outnumbered and pinned down for days. Major Thornburg was shot and killed early in the fight. His men dug trenches using tin cups and ration tins, desperately holding their position until reinforcements broke through. By the time the cavalry reached the agency, it was a smoldering ruin. The bodies of Meeker and his men lay scattered. The captives were eventually ransomed and released, shaken but alive. Their survival became a rare light in a very dark story. But the consequences were far-reaching. Public outrage across the nation was immediate and ferocious. Newspapers fanned the flames, labeling the Utes as murderers, calling for vengeance. Few headlines questioned Meeker's policies or his role in escalating the crisis. Congress acted swiftly. Within 2 years, the U.S. government forced the White River and Uncompahgre Utes to relinquish their land. They were exiled from Colorado, banished to a reservation in Utah, stripped of the homeland they had occupied for generations. Nathan Meeker became a martyr to some, a cautionary tale to others. The town of Meeker, Colorado bears his name to this day. But the massacre wasn't just the death of a man, it was the death of diplomacy, of possibility, of a future that could have been built on mutual respect rather than domination. Today, markers dot the landscape near Milk Creek and the old agency site. They stand silent, overlooked by most who pass through. But the land remembers, the wind knows the screams, and history bears the truth that even peace, when imposed by force, can end in fire and blood. Thank you for listening to Deserted Trails. If you found this story worth remembering, Consider subscribing for more true accounts from the forgotten frontier.